Welcome back to our special Bulletin Review and Enterprise Cloud Conversation sponsored by Oracle here on Federal News Network. My guest today is Devarius Peoples, the Chief Information Officer at the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, and I'm Tom Temin. And before the break, we were talking about applications, and of course, with application rationalization and maybe modernizing of some of the applications comes that idea of continuous authority to operate that you mentioned earlier, the ATO. And of course, a lot of agencies find the ATO can kind of put a gum up in the works if you don't design around ATO in some way. So what is your approach to continuous ATO with respect to your applications, and how does cloud support all of that? I guess a lot to ask in one question.
Yeah, so cloud is baked into that actually, because in order to operate, regardless of where you're operating, if it's an on-prem managed environment, if it's a cloud environment, at the end of the day, every environment must be secure. And in order to do that, you have to have the proper documentation to reflect it, but then you also have to have the right things applied to that environment. Cybersecurity is one of those things that it's not just a snapshot in time. It's not just something that you look at once a year. Cybersecurity is continuous because the threat never sleeps. Whether that's insider or whether that's external, you can't be relaxed in cybersecurity. So one of the things that we begin to do is look at it from a continuous aspect. How do we evolve the continuous monitoring aspect of our accreditation and our security posture? What that does is it continues to allow us to scope and effectively get after mitigating the threat, identifying where we're vulnerable and where we're weak at, and where we need to begin to enhance certain things. So we have begun to pilot the continuous aspect of our monitoring, as well as of the RMF process. Right now, we do go through the standard processes before systems are put onto the network. We go through the RMF process, and then before it's time for renewal of that specific authority to operate, we review it. But now 365, cyber is 365, cyber is continuous. And with that being said, we are enhancing how we do business. So working with our cybersecurity professionals, we have begun to monitor our security posture frequently every day. So if there's anything that needs to be tweaked, if there's anything that needs to be modified inside of our documentation or even our security posture, our cybersecurity professionals are ready to be able to tackle those things. And from a continuous monitoring standpoint, it has given us the opportunity and the ability to continue to assess and see where the vulnerabilities lie and where the threats are. So that means we continue to mitigate every day. Every day we're finding things out. Every day we're learning, discovering, and recovering. But that has enhanced how we do business on-prem and in the cloud. And it also enhanced how we work with our mission partners as well that provide us software as a service capabilities inside of those cloud environments also, because it's also it's challenging them rather to think of accreditations in a continuous manner versus a snapshot in time as they go through the process as well too. So it can be cumbersome, but if you get in a routine manner of doing those type of things, then it becomes a lot less easier. I mean, it becomes a lot more easier rather for your cybersecurity posture to become enhanced.
And of course, with applications that you are checking for security and bugs and so forth, and there's a lot of ways that vulnerabilities can come into a set of software. Do you find that there are cloud-based services that can enable that process to monitor and measure the software and evaluate it, even if it may not be eventually running in the cloud? That is, what is the role of cloud services other than application hosting that may come to impinge on this whole process of assuring cybersecurity?
Right, so we work with a cybersecurity service provider on the Army side, a C5ISR, who provides us a lot of the cybersecurity services that allows us to properly secure our cloud environments. And that has been an Army mandate through Army Cyber that organizations going to the cloud will receive those services. And what that does is that provides you with a standard cybersecurity suite of capabilities that ensures that as you operate in the cloud, you're operating effectively. However, with that being said, that's just one aspect. We have also worked with various mission partners, such as Microsoft inside of the O365 environment, that has a certain set of security suite tools as well too, that protect us from the vulnerable threats that are out there as well. So being able to deploy that full security suite is also enhancing what we do. And then we're looking at the zero trust aspect of the zero trust methodology, which can be applied throughout all cloud environments. We're now operationalizing that concept, which at one point in time was more so theoretical. So how do you deny all, allow by exception, but then have the ability to partition to give those that need the ability to access certain swim lanes that ability, but then separating them from the rest of the enterprise to prevent any type of compromise or intrusion on various aspects that where it shouldn't be. So those are all the things we're looking at, leveraging cybersecurity tools through the cloud as well as through a service provider with the unique aspects of our mission.
And that zero trust idea relates in some way to all of the people using VPN capability to get into their work now that they are all, because of the pandemic, everybody teleworking. Is there a thought of getting past the VPN technology to newer types of access that can maybe better support a zero trust model?
Yeah, there are many aspects. VPN is just one way to connect. A lot of different new technologies are going towards the web-based access of how you connect through the web. If you look at the Microsoft CVR capability that we use inside of the department now, which allows us to effectively collaborate across the entire mission space, you can actually begin to see some of the zero trust methodologies or principles also being applied to that construct as well too. So with that being said, there are a lot of technologies out there to properly protect and secure those cloud environments. VPN is just one technology, one capability and resource that allows users to be able to effectively do that. But now as we move towards more of this mobile construct, even within inside of the core, from a mobility perspective, mobility allows for users to be anywhere and access their mission applications at any time. So that means some users may not have VPN access on a lot of their mobile devices. So how do you ensure that there are two-factor authentication that allows for secure access to mission critical applications to be able to do your job? Because ultimately a VPN, you have to be sitting somewhere to connect to get there. But with a lot of these new mission applications, being able to access them on mobile devices, iPads, iPhones, and tablets, you may not necessarily be required to access to it through a VPN, but more so through some type of two-factor authentication or some type of credentialing capability that allows you to connect to that application more effectively. So we're looking at all aspects of technology to continue to move our modernization and digital transformation journey to the left a lot more effectively.
And I wanted to ask about the data-driven organization that you said the Army Corps of Engineers is working to become, because that brings up a lot of questions. Where is your data, and how do you govern the data? So, what's the technical strategy or some of the strings there? And then we can talk about what the governance strategy is, because they do relate to one another.
Sure, we look at our data strategy in multiple ways. You have the people aspects of that, you have the mission aspect of that, and you have the culture aspect of that. We look at it from a people standpoint, ensuring that our individual employees have the knowledge and the understanding to be able to effectively meet the mission goals and objectives and understand what it means to be a true data-driven organization and data-driven enterprise. So we are working to ensure they have the proper training, the proper resources to be able to effectively do their job. The next aspect of our data strategy focuses on culture. You have to begin to socialize a data-driven culture in order to really get after a data-driven enterprise. Because data is the center universe of everything which it is that we do, specifically in the Corps, as well as within the Army. I participated in several discussions. 2 years ago, data wasn't talked about as a weapon system. Actually, data wasn't really talked about at all. Now, when you fast forward 2 years, look at where we as an Army has come, we as a department has come. We're talking about data as everything in which it is that we do. So creating that culture, really understanding what data means and how to effectively use it to make more informed decisions is definitely critical and key. So one of the things we've done at the Corps, we've broken it into three parts. The first phase of our data strategy is the visualization aspects of things. How can an end user or how can a senior leader be able to consume data in its most rawest of forms, but be able to make informed decisions from a visual standpoint because we're visual creatures? The next aspect of it, which we call the second layer, is the data quality, the data management aspects of things. How do we ensure that you have access to your data in real time to be able to have quality of it, where it's not just raw data, dirty data, but it makes sense when it's output to an end user. And then ensuring that the platform is safe, stable, and solid, whether that's in a cloud environment or an on-prem environment. Users have the ability to effectively do their job in a secure environment with access to real-time data that makes sense at the end of the day with what you're seeing. So we've come a long ways. We still have room to grow as we modernize a lot of our major business applications and business systems. because they all have data. So how do we effectively share it? That's critical and key as well too. So we're definitely excited to be on that journey.
And earlier you mentioned that the Army Corps of Engineers uses a cloud broker and that you have a hybrid approach and several different cloud suppliers. What's your approach to evaluating cloud, and how do you work with industry, and what is it you seek from industry to best optimize what it is that the Corps is trying to do?
Right. It's understanding the workloads, understanding what it is you're trying to achieve, because every cloud is built for something different. One size doesn't fit all. And as an organization, ensuring that we one have the right requirements, and then two, we understand what we're trying to do, whether that's a a Unix, Linux type of platform, whether that's a Windows type of platform, the operational loads, what we're trying to achieve. So we have begun to work with industry to really sit down and map out our requirements. What is in the best interest of USACE, and how do we benefit the Army or help move the Army's overall mission forward? And working with a lot of our mission partners, vendors, we have all come to the table and begin to map those out through the whiteboard concept. And with that being said, they are helping us become more educated and informed as to what's the best position for our various workloads as it pertains to the various cloud environments and those type of things. So it is definitely a partnership. And those are some of the things that we appreciate and value the most from our industry partners, the insight and the resources that they can bring to us to help us begin to move forward even more effectively and expediently in this mission space.
And a final question: how important is cloud interoperability to you, or do you use each cloud provider for the specific strengths that it brings?
Yeah, so we use them for the strengths that they bring. However, the interoperability is critical and key because, as you know, various organizations use various cloud environments, and the ability to be able to share data, because that's what it comes down to. Can I effectively share data to move the mission forward? And being that mission workloads reside in various cloud environments, having that interoperability amongst cloud environments are critical and key. A good example, even within the core alone, within inside of the Army Corps of Engineers, we have our major financial systems, which resides in a specific environment. We have our major email and some of those other specific workloads reside in another environment. And at the end of the day, being able to share that data, access it, is all critical and key. So the interoperability aspect is huge, and we rely upon that every day to be successful in order to be able to do our job and meet all the mission objectives that's required from the Army Corps of Engineers.
All right, good place to conclude on. Thank you so much. Our guest today has been Devarius Peoples, the Chief Information Officer at the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. I'm Tom Temin. You're listening to Federal News Network. For more on this discussion, please visit federalnewsnetwork.com and search Oracle.